You're listening to The Bird Bath. This week's episode of The Bird Bath is brought to you by the team at Vet Forum USA, the most effective way to connect meaningfully with other business leaders in the animal health industry. On September 22nd and 23rd, group practice leaders and vendors will come together for 2 days of conference learning, pre-matched B2B speed dating, and informal networking, all in a top-tier location in Salt Lake City. For more information, email Christopher@openroomevents.com or click the link in the show notes. Welcome back to The Bird Bath. Each week we scrape the surface of the news you need to know, so let's get into it. This week we are coming to you live from Kansas City. This is a really cool time of the year where we get to take part in the KC Animal Health Corridor Summit. Every single year, leaders from tons of companies from all over the world come to Kansas City to take part in the corridor. It is a group of over 300 animal health companies between Manhattan, Kansas, and Columbia, Missouri. It's the largest concentration of animal health companies in the entire world. 56% of total worldwide animal health, diagnostic, and pet food sales originate in the corridor. So this is always an incredible time. I've been learning a ton about some really cool, unique, and emerging companies. And actually this week it was great because one of our stories later talks a lot about what's going on in cattle and the ag world. And I was at the epicenter of people that are at the front lines of what's going on in the ag world in our space. So stay tuned. Check out some of our other stories that we've got coming out here around the animal health corridor. And if you haven't been before, it's a great event to check out next year. Our top story this week is the Illinois State Veterinary Medical Association has had a big win. The Illinois Governor, J.B. Pritzker, recently signed House Bill 3360, which has increased occupational title protection for certified veterinary technicians, CVTs. And the thing about this is it's something that's going on a lot of places as we continue to see more and more people talking around the changes in how medicine is practiced, where it's practiced, the importance of the titles that people have and what they're able to do with those titles continues to grow. From some of the news coming out, the reports say CVTs, like veterinarians, are licensed by Illinois to practice veterinary medicine that's outlined in their degree in veterinary science and training. The new bill requires quite a few things for people to be that are CVTs, certified veterinary technicians, and it only allows them and only them to use the title veterinary technician, vet tech, and the abbreviation VT and technician in a veterinary medicine context. So the requirements to utilize this title is that they must have graduated from an AVMA accredited veterinary technician program, passed the veterinary technician national exam, they're healthcare professionals licensed by the LDFPR, they must complete the required CE to maintain their licensure, and they must adhere to supervision guidelines and tasks in the Veterinary Practice Act. So this isn't something that's quick and fly by night, and it's extremely important. One of the veterinary technicians, certified veterinary technicians in Chicago, Tracy Porter, said title protection is a significant step forward for professionally licensed CVTs in Illinois. This law not only reinforces the integrity of the veterinary profession, but also improves access to high-quality care for both pets and their people. So the law went into effect and was passed and was officially signed last week. It goes into effect at the beginning of the year next year. So January 1st, 2026, only CVTs will be using that veterinary technician or VT or a lot of those other versions of it in Illinois. So big news out of Illinois, and something that I expect to see happening, or at least more and more around the conversations around that at other states. Roo has launched Roo Uni, which they're calling the first ever national externship platform for veterinary students. The reason I thought this story was really interesting, and I'm not always sitting here reporting on new feature sets or product lines here, but the thing I found particularly interesting was that this is a really big relief platform, Roo, and they're now tackling the opportunity to be able to help students still in school directly apply and search for externships. The reason that this really stuck out to me, not only the idea that we're finally meeting students and the new generation of DVMs in a way that they actually want to search and find information, which is not just calling every single independent practice around them, but it now gives them the opportunity to look at more of the things. And in this case, 800 animal hospitals across 47 states are part of this program. But the reason why I also thought it was really interesting was that we're seeing a lot of conversation, a lot of chatter around not the externship program, but the internship and residency matching programs. So if you remember, the AVMA currently has a class action lawsuit against it from some students that claim that it is anti-competitive in the matching program. So although the Roo Uni is not the solution to that, it's definitely something that opens up the idea of perhaps a new way for students and new graduates to be able to find those connections with practices that they want to spend their time working in. Also, extremely intelligent here by Roo to be able to start gaining some user base in these new students that are graduating as they look for more flexible and changing work environments. They've got them on their Relief platform now. So definitely something that I think is smart, extremely intelligent, and something that we're going to be able to see what the impact is. And I'd love to see if there's an impact coming to it on the internship and residency programs. Finally, a big story, and it's definitely not vet med, but it's something that vet med needs to be thinking about, and that's the new World Screwworm. The US just confirmed the first human case of the new World Screwworm, which is a flesh-eating parasite which has been coming up from South America over the past year or so after having been eradicated in the US several decades ago. And this was one of those stories that I found interesting, not just because it's something that's going to affect our agriculture and our livestock, but it was extremely interesting because I was surrounded by cattle people on Monday at the KC Animal Health Corridor Summit and getting to spend more time with them as well on Tuesday. And so this was a time where we're looking at something that is not exactly like the avian flu, which is what it jogs my mind. I keep thinking about the avian flu and how we look at it jumping species and becoming a zoonotic disease and the concerns around that, but this is an actual parasite. So I had an opportunity to chat with some extremely intelligent people that know more about cattle than I could ever know. I kind of felt like Chris Farley and Tommy Boy a little bit. But what was really interesting here is what the screwworm actually does. So it is a parasite. The fly is not actually the issue, it's the larva. And I'm going to get a little gross here on what it does. So if you don't want to hear that, click that jump ahead 30 seconds button. But what the screwworm does is it actually finds any open wound, lays the larva in there. The larva then bore, like a screw, into the animal. And the big difference here between the screwworm and a traditional fly, or the concerns with traditional flies, is that the screwworm goes on flesh-eating live mammals. So the big issue here is that they aren't able to really get their hands, and farmers and ranchers and people that are with agriculture, animals and livestock, are not able to actually go out there every single day and put their hands on every single animal. And so by the time that they do see this as an issue and see that screwworm gotten themselves into the flesh of the animal, it usually is too late and there is a high mortality rate. Now, on the companion animal side of things and on the human side of things, it's definitely something that we could see this entering into the clinics and some of the things that you'll see in a vet clinic, but it's not something that you're going to be seeing a mortality rate from it, just because of the fact that we're around our animals and touching them and with our pets significantly more. Now, if you have some dogs that are spending a lot of time outside and you're not readily there next to them every single day, it's definitely something you might want to keep a better eye on. Now, we have yet to have any confirmed livestock cases of screwworm coming to the US. There have been halts on the international transportation of cattle, and the human that had it was a travel case. So the screwworm has made it all the way to Mexico. I guess they're hoping the freshly painted black wall could be the barrier to stop it. But everyone that I spoke to said that we should definitely expect to see it make it across the border. And the way that it's being tackled is kind of similar to the way that it was tackled a couple decades ago when we first pushed it out of the US. by utilizing sterile flies. So again, this was something I learned a mountain of things about, but the screwworm and flies in general, the female only mates once. So if you can produce a high number of sterile male flies and distribute them in areas where those screwworms are active, you can actually have them mate with a sterile fly and they won't produce offspring, which will cause the eradication of these animals or of these parasites. And so it's definitely something interesting here. The U.S. is planning to build a facility. It's going to take about 2 to 3 years to build, but they're also working with the Mexican government to get another facility online, and what they're planning in 2026 to get that facility online. So once they do, they're planning to see about 300 million sterile flies produced every single week. So the scale of this type of thing is absolutely massive. And I thought it was incredibly interesting as we look at how the US is tackling this problem. And it's one that, flies don't understand what borders are. And so it does require some international cooperation. But definitely a story that I think we'll want to keep our eye on, and something that, if you have an animal that spends time outside, there are any open wounds on them, to make sure to spend a little extra time really making sure that you're giving them an extra check over. Unusual story, but one that definitely comes from spending time around the ag world here. And for more on these and other stories, you can join us by subscribing to our Substack. There's a link in the bio. And don't miss out on any episodes by subscribing and rating the show. For the Bird Bath, I'm Ryan Leach. See you next week.